Hello, let's go over the history of photography proposal requirements. The first thing I encourage you to do is, of course, you're going to want to listen to this, but before you completely move forward with your proposal, I encourage you to also take a minute to listen and review the full-on requirements, so like what you'll be ultimately turning in. So this is just your proposal requirements, and then you'll also have a set of different requirements for the final history of photography project. So let me kind of review what those requirements are. So this is like your outline and your proposal. I will give you feedback if your proposal doesn't either meet their requirements and or you're kind of going in the wrong direction. But hopefully this short video will help you get enough information to be able to do your proposal the first time correctly. So you're going to need to pick a name, pick a photographer from the list that I've provided. So this is the list. It's also available on a separate page in Canvas. And I've given just a short description of the photographers that you should choose from. You have to choose someone from this list. There are 35 different photographers that really affected sort of like the beginning of the history of photography. So most of these photographers worked from, let's say, around 1890 up until about maybe 1950. So a good span and a lot of different photographers to choose from. So first you're going to pick a photographer from that list, and then you're going to write a short bio introducing the photographer, and this should include that concept called the cultural context, which we talked about with learning about visual analysis. So you might need to go back and review some of those concepts, and there's also a slide included in this module to remind you of what those concepts are. You're going to want to have 2 examples of their work, and with that you're going to need to include the title of the photo, the size, the date, the medium. So you're going to want to do some research about what kind of photograph it is and the genre of photography that they're working with. So I'm really asking you to apply the concepts that we've been reviewing in previous lectures. Then you're going to explain why you picked this photographer. So that's your own words, and you can just tell me out of the list why this one stood out for you. You're going to try to do some research on their technical concepts, like what were the techniques that they used or the concepts, how did they create their photographs and why. So kind of give me a brief description of that. Then you're going to pick one of the 2 examples that you've submitted, and you're going to apply 2 of the visual analysis investigation methods that we've also talked about. So the first one is the analysis of formal structure. So you're going to basically talk about the compositional elements in the image. And then you're also going to identify any subject matter and or symbolism. I'm making a typo as I read this. And so that was also covered in the visual analysis module. So you can go back and check that out, but just explain what you see in the photo and if there's any symbolism. You're going to want to include the links that you're using to gather your research, and you need a minimum of 3 links. A minimum of 800 words for this portion of your proposal. You can do it in bullet point, however you want to do it. Just be really clear when you respond to these different prompts. Keep me posted with any questions. Again, these are the list of photographers that you are required to choose from. And I've included some examples because this kind of gets into what your final project will look like. So I'm hoping this will be helpful. So you're basically, for your final part of this history project, will be to pick a photographer and then make photographs that are hopefully inspired by that photographer. So that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at the work by Robert Frank and then the student work inspired by Robert Frank. Again, another student who we're seeing a photograph that Robert Frank made and then a photograph that she made inspired by what she learned and felt about Robert Frank's work. And another example by the same student. Moving on to a different student, the photographer studied here is Carl Hugo Schmoltz. And here's the student's work in response to what they were inspired by. Now, you don't have to copy the work. Like you can see here, it's not an exact copy, and I don't want you to do exact copies. That's not the point of this assignment. The point of this assignment is to learn about different photographers throughout history and make work that's inspired by what you learned about them, by the way that they're using those compositional elements and thinking about light, design, shapes, all of those things that come up with the formal structure and compositional elements that we're studying. And then finally, the last photographer. So the photographer studied here is Ansel Adams, and the student's work is very different. So I am not asking you to, go to New Mexico or Yosemite or wherever the photographer made their photos. I want you to study the photographer and make photos that you're inspired about. Just again, thinking about contrast, light, shadows, exposure. You don't have to convert the images to black and white like one of the other students' examples. It's more about the feeling that the photograph gives you and trying to then visually communicate that in the photographs you make, inspired by the photographer that you choose. So I look forward to reviewing your proposals, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.